The Catalyst Machineworks Shocker 5 Ultralight, as they would call it, the top of the line, no compromises, frame, everything great, fantastic, expensive. That's what they say at Catalyst Machineworks, but I'm going to give you a review which goes into the nitty-gritty, dirty secrets of this frame. And as if you don't care to stick around for the details, the final conclusion is this is a terrible frame. Absolutely terrible. Literally any single other 5-inch lightweight frame is going to be a better choice than this one. It's just very poor. And I will show you, after I go over some of the flaws on here, the black box logs which backed up that statement and explain why you would not see ideal flight characteristics from this frame. So let's get into the details. If you notice, I have the upgraded aluminum hardware kit for added weight savings. So that would be one of my first issues. Is if you look at it, they were nice enough to include these nice button head fasteners on the top, but on the back here, actually, this is my post modified frame, they had these cap heads, like you can see here. They had caps all along, up here, there, down at the bottom too. They had caps instead of buttons. So it would have been nice if they had taken the time and attention to detail to make all of them button heads, because if you can tell, there's a lot more material on a cap head than there is on a button head. So the goal is weight savings. That's an easy win. Second gripe with that being, they only did M3 in aluminum, none of the M2. You see the motor mounts, they're still steel, camera bolts, etc. Steel, everything else steel, except for the M3s. Going on that topic, if you look on the bottom, the way I have this frame constructed is there's these standoffs here, there's another one here, which are 3mm. They could have gone with a 2mm standoff. It's very common, and saved a tiny bit more weight there, but again, it doesn't seem like they thought that far into it. And then if you could see through this standoff, you would see what I'm talking about. But basically the length of these screws is excessively long. So when you're dealing with a screw, there's a formula which tells you how far in a screw should be screwed into something to get the maximum strength of that screw. And any extra length is just basically wasted. You're not getting any more strength from that. And these screws are all too long. So they could have had shorter screws. For the majority of these screws could have been shorter by 1-2 millimeters, and it would have, once again, saved some weight, because this is a lightweight frame after all. But they didn't do that. They didn't think of that. And now the second thing I'm going into here is the battery strap location. So if you look at this frame, you'd kind of wonder where you'd run a battery strap, because it's not like a typical frame. It's got the whole stack and everything running upside down off the top plate. And normally, this would be on the bottom. You have all this room on the top plate to wrap your strap. But basically what they had come with is this rinky-dink 3D printed piece of plastic, which would go here, if you can see, but on the opposite side, to mount your Vista. And they didn't want you to screw through this to the Vista. They wanted you to put double-sided sticky tape on top of this and stick your Vista to this with sticky tape, which is weird. But they wanted then this little standoff piece to be where your strap goes. So your strap goes between it like this. But if you look at the frame, if I was to put a battery on here, are you telling me that I'm going to have a battery strap all the way back here? I don't think so. So the only place you can mount a battery strap is pretty much you can try to snake it through these little holes, or what I end up doing is just wrapping the battery strap literally entirely around the quad like this, which is not ideal, especially because of the design of these. As you can see, they're curved like that. So when the strap goes on there, the strap wants to bulge out and wants to kind of contour. So it's just weird. Going back to the Vista, though, you remember how I said this was stuck on with double-sided heatsink, or double-sided tape to the heatsink? Well, if you guys can guess the purpose of a heatsink is to dissipate heat. And if you just took that heatsink and glued it to a piece of plastic, do you think there's going to be any air there to cool it off? No, there's not. So, I don't know why they would bother with this versus, something more elaborate or something as simple as screw mounting holes, which is what I went with. So I found that weird. And then, if you can see, my antenna situation looks different, and that's because what it originally came with was this guy. And if I put this down, and if I was to put this here, you would see this would basically come out, and it would come out at such an angle that it went right here, literally right here, in between the propellers, like directly in between the propellers. If it was angled a little forward, a little backwards, it would miss the propellers, but it went directly in between the propellers. So it's just asking to be hit by the propellers. I don't know why they did that. And the reason I got rid of it on top of that was this entire assembly with the screws and hardware was 5 grams. And 5 grams is a nice little chunk when you're talking about ultralight. So what I did was basically I just epoxied it to the side of the frame. And then there's also mounting holes, mounting screws here. It's a weird system where they had a screw and a nut that would cinch down this piece to this. And so I just epoxied that in as well. Trying to save as much weight as possible because, I'm kind of stuck with this frame now, and it's not ideal, it's not light, and the flight characteristics are poor, so I'm trying to do everything I can to make it better, and it's pretty much running out of things to do. And then on to the final point. If you are familiar with this frame, you'll notice mine looks a little different, and that's because it has these arm braces. Catalyst Machineworks does not offer these arm braces. They only offer a rear brace. I don't know what it does, but with my talks with Catalyst Machineworks, they said it doesn't need it. It doesn't do anything. So that's what they said. I can tell you these do a lot, and they do not sell these to you. They will not offer these to you. And I'm about to show you here the proof for that. I have black box footage before and after these braces, and you'll see this frame has very, very poor resonance characteristics. It is terrible. It might be the worst on the market, honestly. It's got very poor performance in both the yaw and the roll. And the easy way to show this is right here on this graph. So here, let me show you. Left and right. So on the left here, if you look, we have the roll, and I have the gyro scale. So this is the raw, unfiltered, the unfiltered gyro reading. And I don't know if you're familiar with these, but this right here is insane, absolutely disgusting, terrible. I'd be hard pressed to find worse characteristics than this. And then on the right here, exact same graph, except this one, it's with those arm braces on. Do you see a difference? According to Catalyst Machineworks, you don't need those. The quad flies fine like this. It flies fine. And normally I wouldn't be giving them such a hard time, but they advertise this as the best of the best, and they charge appropriately. So this is the most expensive frames out there are from this company, and this look at this. It's just disgusting, absolutely disgusting. You would think if they were professional, they would have had done any sort of testing to see this and to remediate it like I did. But it continues even worse. So here, let me go bring up the yaw now. Same graph. Let's go to the raw, unfiltered. Look at the yaw. Look at that. Same deal. Disgusting. Completely horrible. I'll look at the yaw after the arms. Right here. Just a little better. Unfortunately, the yaw is going to be terrible no matter what you do on this quad. So I was able to clean up the roll a good bit with those braces, but the yaw is just terrible. And you'll notice it when you fly it, that if you're familiar with other, lightweight 5-inch drones, that this one just doesn't fly as good. And this is why. This is proof in the pudding. You listen to Joshua Bardwell, he'll tell you the same thing. Basically, he says he didn't like the 5-inch, he liked the 4-inch. And I assume this is why. I bet if you put up some black box logs, 4 versus 5, you see it a lot smaller spikes on these graphs on the 4-inch than the 5-inch. And the 250, everybody says get a 250 now if you want that. So I don't have a 250 to compare it to. But I assume from what people say it performs better than this. If you want a comparison here, let me I'll bring up a black box log of my Recon 5 now. This is my Recon 5 on the yaw. So as you can see, it still had a little bit of dirt on the yaw, but a lot better than that. And if you look at its roll, here's the roll on the Recon 5. It's just, well, I need to put the roll on here as well to get it accurate. It's better, it's still better than that. This is with arm braces, mind you. And this is just, you know, the Recon 5, which is a cheaper frame, and it flew better. There's the proof in the pudding, guys. So, should you buy the Catalyst Machineworks Shocker Ultralight 5? No, you should not. Should you buy anything from Catalyst Machineworks? I'll let you be the judge of that one. Thanks guys for watching.